Hi, Doug Stworski for the U.S. Access Institute, LLC. Today we look at one specific element in our lesson series called Accessibility by the Element. That's where we take a quick look at the accessibility requirements and one specific element. We also do a comparison of the different ADA and state access codes and standards. We try to cover it from coast to coast. Remember, our goal is eliminating the confusion and access compliance. So check us out at www.usaccessinstitute.com. Here we go. First, we start with the periodic table of accessible elements. It's not a real table in the access standard sense of things, but hey, we want to make access fun. Then we drill down to section 502, and that covers accessible parking space requirements. Next, we see section 502.2 that covers accessible vehicle spaces. It says car parking spaces shall be 96 inches wide minimum, and van parking spaces shall be 132 inches wide minimum, and shall be marked to define the width, and shall have an adjacent access aisle. There is no mention of a wheel stop. But in the 2022 California Building Code, Chapter 11A on housing accessibility, we have this figure 11A2A on double parking stalls. In this figure, there is shown two wheel stops, and they are located within the accessible parking spaces. This figure has been misinterpreted, and it is sometimes creates confusion that the wheel stop is actually required based on the fact that it is shown in this figure. The 2010 ADA standards and the 2012 Texas accessibility standards do not show a wheel stop in the figure. The ICCA 117.1, the 2020 Building Code of New York State, and the 2020 Minnesota Accessibility Code do not show a wheel stop in the figure. The 2018 Illinois Accessibility Code does not show a wheel stop in the figure. The 2020 Florida Building Code and the 2022 California Building Code Chapter 11B do not show a wheel stop in the figure. Section 104.3 on figures in the 2010 ADA standard states that unless specifically stated otherwise, figures are provided for informational purposes only. In California, Division 7 on figures in the CBC, Chapter 11A, states that diagrams illustrate the specific requirements of these regulations and are intended only as an aid for building design and construction. Continuing then with section 1109A.8.2 that covers the arrangement of parking spaces states, parking spaces shall be arranged to comply with the following. 1, in each parking area, a bumper or curb shall be provided and located to prevent encroachment of cars over the required width of walkways. 502.7 in relationship to accessible routes, parking spaces and access aisles shall be designed so that cars and vans, when parked, cannot obstruct the required clear width of adjacent accessible routes. So some form of a wheel stop is only required to prevent obstruction of an adjacent accessible route. Otherwise, no wheel stop is required. Thanks for watching, and remember that here at the U.S. Access Institute, LLC, our goal is eliminating the confusion in access compliance. So check us out at www.usaccessinstitute.com.